Hi, Bill Daniel here. The next episode of the Security Experience podcast. This is going to be even more fun, even more enlightening, even more educational than the last ones. And that's saying a lot because my last guests were all fantastic. And I'd like to just hand over the floor. I'm doing it slightly differently now to get somebody else who's on my call to introduce themselves. And this chat is going to be slightly different. And that will become clear as we go through. So without me actually saying who it is, I'm just going to introduce and just hand over the floor for a self-introduction.
Bill, that was quite short because I struggled to get a word in edgeways with you. So no, look, look, Bill, thank you for having me on board. Look, we met in sunny Orlando last
Yeah,
year, and look, here we are. We've had a couple of more calls. You have educated me on the history of IPSA. So look, I am CEO of the International Professional Security Association, uh, the oldest security association in the UK and the largest. I know we're showing our age here.
yeah.
Um, I'm also Chief Operating Officer for Leverage Security, and I wear various hats across the industry, and because I'm passionate about people, Bill, you know that, and
I do. Yeah,
being part of all these wonderful, incredible organizations means I can impact and influence, and I get access to the incredible security professionals, not just in the UK but globally. So look, I'm a board member of the Security Skills Board. I am non-exec director for the Nighttime Industries Association. I am a proud committee member of of LGBT I am also a member of the International Security Expo. And then when we go into, the violence against women and girls piece, which I am passionate about addressing, talking about, and changing, I am a stamp out spiking ambassador. I am a True Honor, which is a charity which is all around about honor-based violence. I am an ambassador for them, and last but not least, I'm also an ambassador for Ask for Angela. So all the last three organisations are very close to my heart. That's why I'm part of them, and that's why I participate. So if I can raise awareness about important issues or topics across our sector, things that we never used to talk about, now that we do, and we should bring it to the forefront, Bill.
fantastic. And then what I'll do as well for those who aren't aware of those associations, then we'll gather the links and everything and put them in the podcast and share afterwards for everybody to be aware of.
Oh,
That
wonderful idea.
so I was saying before that when we bumped into each other, and I guess again Orlando, I just heard the accent and I went, oh, I recognise that accent from somewhere. We're in the middle of the States, and I just basically came over and accosted you and said hello. And then, but it was interesting, and then discovering what you are, I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. Now, the International Professional Security Association, the episode was so fundamental in my transition and my journey.
Yeah.
And some of you know it, some of you don't. And I was in the kind of Royal Air Force Police in the UK, and as I joked, Gorbachev and Reagan ruined my career. The Berlin Wall came down, promotion left,
Wow.
to leave. And I'm going, well, what do I do next? And lots of my friends went into policing, and lots of my friends are in that, and they're honorable. And luckily for them, most of them have retired now because they've done their many years and contribution to service, and are sitting there with their feet up, which is, I kind of now wish I'd gone down that path maybe and had my feet up by now. But I didn't. I went down to the corporate security kind of world, and I ended up joining an organization which is still around called Inmarsat, Satellite Communications, and they decided to hire a in-house security team, which is rare. Most of it then was contract. And they hired, most of them ex-military and the like. And the great thing with them is they saw value, and they vested and they trained. And so some of the thing, I know you're excited to see some of this. So you haven't seen any of this beforehand, but some of the history which you don't have. And so you were saying, how long's IPSA been around? Since 1950?
1948.
1948. Okay, I had 1954 in my brain, but even 1948, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember when I was a member, they used to be based down in Torquay, and
Wow.
ran out of there. And I did one little trip down to do some training. That was it the English Riviera, they call it, palm trees and whatever. Believe it or not, in England. Um, so yeah, starting off through that, and I'm going to share some bits, and I'll gladly share some other bits. If you scan them, send them bits and copies and whatever. But I have no shame in sharing this first one because this is old.
Look at that. Oh my goodness. That's an old, old logo. And
Stamps
I
on the
have never seen any of
Yeah, the
that.
stamps on the back from all the years I was involved before I kind of came to the UK, came from the UK. The last stamp, yeah, being 2002 because I came to Canada at the end of that year in 2003, and then look how beautiful I am. Look at
Oh my
this.
god. Was that like a membership, your card and
Yeah,
etc.
membership. You carried it. That's what.
Brilliant. Look
So
at
that's 1989. Oh my
Oh
god.
wow, that's a trip.
So,
This is definitely a trip down memory lane.
but
That's brilliant. Show me more, more, more.
But the funny thing is with that is that once you start down that process, and again, I'm clamoring for, and these day and age, you can go pretty much everywhere in the world and find courses and certification, even now degree courses and doctorate courses you can follow that are embedded in security services solutions, risk management. But back then, it was a very, very early stages. There wasn't much at all, and IPSA was really my home for that because they were the first people I sort of
Oh,
championed that.
oh,
And I know it's just like so. I'm going to show some other stuff as well, but which is interesting because I know now it's interesting because I have, which I'll talk about in a minute, which is equivalent to the ASIS International CPP certification, which I don't think IPSA does as much right now, but their real strong focus, and correct me if I'm wrong, has always been now is I want to call it the grassroots, the operational security people, the really and to learn to do that right is so strong. So even things in here like and this is like a whole little book here, and this is my training process
Wha-
for security guards and supervisors. I still have this to this
oh,
day.
Bill,
Uh,
that is gold. That is
so,
gold for
so
us.
you see this in here, like it's old school, like the whole.
Oh,
It even have like notes, things to draw up for how to search people, court attendance procedures, evidence,
oh,
the Theft Act, all sorts of things in here.
yeah.
Phonetic alphabet is amazing. So, but it goes. You need foundations, right? And then so what's happening within IPSA right now on training and what are you championing in regards to that kind of if you say entry level new security staff and their supervisors and line managers? What's happening with the in the organization?
Oh, well, look, first and foremost, that info there is, I mean, I've not seen any of the old training material manuals and etc. And I've just checked. You're right, and I'm incorrect. IPSA was established in 1958. So my decade, I missed the decade. I got the decade wrong. So yes, 1958. Even still, I mean, that is just
Yeah.
quite remarkable. So look, we work with various training partners that yeah, our membership, our corporate membership is so diverse. So we work with membership with our training partners like Mercury Training, the our corporate members, the Institute of Strategic Risk Management, and what we get through our partnerships with them is we get access to free training. The frontline get access to free training suites, different courses, different levels, through from security officer foundation level to middle management to leadership. So our role now is we make that accessible to our to the front line, but that is accessible to all security professionals, and also I was going to say, what was I going to say? There's other training that we get access to, and etc. But it will come to me as we continue, because it was at the tip of my tongue, Bill. And it's and also all professionals get access to CPD through the Security Institute, through our
One,
partnership. So I do. Since being since the last for the last 4 years, since I became aware of the Security Institute, and I established that actually IPSA have a partnership with the Security Institute. I personally do my own CPD, but that's accessible for all IPSA members. So, I mean, I think I may have spoke to you, Bill, but as of yesterday, we were at nearly 9,000 individual members for IPSA, and we have individual membership in every subcontinent. So that, I mean,
wow,
that is like, when I joined, there was about 1,800 individual members and about 12 company members, and now we're up to nearly 100 corporate members. So, so we've got a board that is absolutely passionate about the front line. They want to do what's right for the front line. They want to give back. They give up their time, volunteer to be board members, and we've got a director of training that is going to be revisiting our training package and etc. to the front line. And again, a lot of it is going to be around the violence against women and girls, about us bringing more women into the sector, because they are remarkable boots on the ground. This is about
yeah,
how do we get them people, the boots on the ground, how do we enable and equip them? And training plays a big part. So we are transitioning and we're doing a lot. I mean, the last big training thing that we did was we worked with Sodexo and one of our corporate members, and we put a management training program together for them, and they delivered that to 50 plus managers across their business, and that was in Europe here. So yeah, so it's brilliant when our corporate members come to us, not just corporate members, but other organisations that we work with, to make sure that we're working that one common goal. How do we make sure that the people on the ground that are tasked to do a difficult job, which is protecting the public, that we enable them, we equip them, and there are various ways that IPSA is doing that. And I've not even touched on the mentorship piece that you know. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I mean, again, I don't just talk about this because, look, this is great to do, but from a personal perspective, Bill, you must have, I've had mentors in my life for the last 15 odd years, and I still do. And it is key, it's crucial. And a couple of surveys that we did with Frontline on the IPSA platform, that we're asked whether they would be interested in mentorship. So about 75%, 80% want mentorship, want to be part of some sort of program around that, Bill.
I think I'm in a situation now where I have mentors still, which is great. I love learning and developing, but on top of that as well, I was talking to somebody within my organization yesterday about I've got so much in here now that I've gathered over all these years. I can't leave the industry without giving it to somebody else or multiple people sharing it. It's part of the reasons I do this as well. Particularly, one of my passions as well is like enterprise security solutions and systems. But when you realize that at the end of the day, you have people running it, people managing it. And if they're not trained, they're not skilled, they're not passionate, they're not engaged, then you provide all this great technology that isn't used or underused, or you don't have the right solutions for the right opportunity because you're not engaging the frontline people to ask what they need.
Mm.
And it's so many layered things that go into this. And it was interesting because this is like a potted resume for me, because then part of my career journey as I moved into kind of leadership within InMarsat on the security side was they went, well, we want you to do more like training and this, that, and the other. So I went, oh, IPSA has a trainer's course, a train the trainers course. So here's my next piece of little.
Oh, look at that.
It is some of this. The paper is going yellow, right? So I have. copies of the IPSA Code of Conduct, Professional Code of
Excellent.
Conduct.
Yeah.
And this is a course that goes back to 1997. Oh my God.
Wow. What's the course, Bill? Do tell me.
This is a training and advisory course. So basically, this is a trainer's course for train the trainer. So things on here like uh, the various different security manners, and then also in here as well, there's even training on debugging and counterintelligence and eavesdropping,
Mm,
vetting, training sessions, bomb threats.
mm,
You know, all a really really detailed uh, list of courses that IPSA used to run.
mm.
And the particular one that I went on was a trainer's course. I did a few of the other ones because obviously being in central London at that time, in the 90s, was there was a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
I had to evacuate my building a couple of times for bomb threats and
Yeah.
more than once. But the trainer's course is really foundational for me
Yeah.
because I end up doing it later on a technical level. And the beauty of it, the course that IPSA ran was there was two parts. You did the training to how to be a trainer, but then they actually brought people in to be trained for free. And obviously, if we made mistakes, they'd correct them. But they brought security officers in to be trained by us, who were already a bit more seasoned in the security industry. And we did a lecture and a practical. So my lecture was on the Theft Act, which an ex-policeman was fairly straightforward for me,
Yeah.
but it was great to get that debate about the law and making the right decision when you're talking about theft, particularly in the UK, and obviously different laws in different countries, but you still have to meet those criteria legally to make an arrest or to take action. And then the second one was notebook entries, and I had to practically do notebook entries. But the interesting thing as well was in the earlier course, I noticed that there was somebody who was struggling with writing. And I had to adapt my course to the fact of, hang on, this isn't about
Mm,
the speed of doing stuff, it's the accuracy and the intent.
mm.
And it's really, really interesting. It really flipped my thought process on training on an instant being there, and so valuable. And I took that with me. And again, you see, I still have this stuff.
It's
We all
incredible.
purge, right? We all purge stuff, and we all go, I don't need that anymore. But this has always been, I still need that. I still need to have this with me. It's still part of my foundational journey.
Yeah.
And again, now we're in a situation, as you reference, you have training partners now.
Yeah.
Whereas before, IPSA had to do it themselves because there was nobody there.
Yeah.
Now you have the opportunity to then have really well established groups that can then provide expert training for your members.
Oh, Mercury Training, Paul, who established that, is brilliant and is our go-to person. We've just signed up new corporate member, Skills for Security. We're going to tie in a plethora training suites for the front line. But for me, this is the first time in my journey at IPSA, Bill, that I've actually seen somebody and seen and heard somebody's story that actually says IPSA played a big part of their career development where they are now on their journey, and that is just so wonderful to hear and to see that. And
Mm.
we still, and similarly, we still do that, but we do it. It's a lot of it is now digital platforms and etc.
Yeah.
And one thing that has not changed, Bill, and will never change, is that this is at no cost to the individual membership. I'm going to share something that I'll probably get shot for doing it, but I don't care. I love this. This is
Nobody's
what this is
watching.
about. Yeah, is that we're going to be rebranding, renaming. The website's going to be done, and the individual membership piece will be an associate member.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're looking at how we enhance our benefits and giving back to the front line. Again, none of that will ever be compromised. It's about us giving back to the front line through our corporate membership. And another thing that we're going to be now utilizing is going to be webinars and etc. So we're going to be holding various webinars and training and etc. through our platform as well, because there's a huge need for doing it. This is us enhancing our partnership with the experts out there, the training providers and etc. And this is like a win-win situation, and we want IPSA to be the go-to association. um, we are not for profit. We are just passionate about making sure that the front line has everything that they need, whether it's mental health training, whether it's about their well-being and etc. and so on. We've got to look out for them. IPSA was established back then because there was nothing for the front line. There was no association to support. There was to support the front. Who was actually out there listening to the front line, listening to their experiences, really celebrating their experiences. And I don't just mean the bigger service providers or the bigger organisations and businesses. I mean the small businesses having a voice. I mean the medium organisations having a voice, and equally, obviously, bringing the bigger organisations into the mix as well. So it's brilliant to see that actually it has played a big part. When you actually said this to me in Canada, I was thinking, who is this guy? I'm sure he's never going to come back to me. I'll never be able to bring you something from 30 years ago. And here you are, proving me wrong.
Well, it's delightful because I know that there's been a transition, and there's some key things that you said there that's really really important. Non for profit, and you've got different organisations developing in different ways. You look at, obviously in North America, ASIS, which was American Society of Industrial Security, kind of American based, now ASIS Global, who's gone global, who has chapters around the world. They are looking and working with very much on standards and delivery and training, and I would say tiered more to the upper echelons of the security industry with a ripple effect down. I'm not saying they're ignoring the grassroots, they're not, but there's definitely a layer to that. And then what I love with IPSA is you are ground up, right? And there are so many people. So if you're listening to this on wherever I post it, and where I put the information on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on the podcast, that particularly if you're involved in an operational security side, wherever you are in the world, you should go and investigate IPSA. Really, really should, because it's going to bring value, and it's international in the name for a reason from the beginning, right? It's and that was what enticed me as well, because it was like, okay, it's UK based, but it's international, and I had no idea I was going to move to Canada, but who knows,
Yeah.
with life. But the interesting thing with that is, then I also remember back then that we were in a situation where IPSA was doing the bottom to top. They were saying, hey, you want to go into these more leadership positions, you want to do security management, examinations, and you want to then push yourself and have credentials that show that you can work in that senior leadership role. So whether or not I had more ego than brains, or I thought. But the thing is, I had lots of. I was lucky in my military days. I had lots of experience early, lots of exposure to stuff that I saw the International Institute of Security through IPSA doing a security management exam. Which, if I'd have been smart, I could have instantly converted to a CPP. It was a comparable,
Yeah.
but I left it too long, so I had to do my CPP again.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
which was fine because it re-scrubs your energy. But
Yeah.
I'm going to show you. I show you some stuff now. So
Yeah.
this is the big book, right? This is some of the stuff, and I've got lots of other bits and pieces. There's equivalent books that I had that equate to the protection of assets, which is used for the main study guide for the CPP. But yeah, I've got these things in here, like examples of sample questions, various different things for my tests, my guides, taking my exams. I've got lots of my notes in here. Amazing, amazing information that I still have to this day. And then to top it all, now all these things, as you were saying, are digital. It's online quizzes, multiple choice. When I sat the exam, it was 7 hours of writing.
Wow.
It was like,
Okay.
I'm a little lefty as well, so my little hand's shaking like crazy. And then, but amazingly, and again, so which allowed me to receive this, which is my City Guilds in Security Management from the International Institute of Security, aligned with IPSA,
Oh,
and
look at that.
dated May 1991. I was a young buck, but I was told at the time that I was the second youngest in Europe to get it. Somebody in Belgium beat me by a couple of months. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's true or not, but it was really, really cool. But the funny thing is, for those of anybody who's listening that has done a CPP or a
Yeah.
PSP, particularly, listen to the what the titles were. You know, the security of corporate assets, protection of other property, emergency situations, fire prevention, control, and health and safety, law and management. They align so well with the domains
Yeah.
that are now in CPP. It's evolved. Obviously, there's more information technology. This is like very paper, very pre-internet.
Yeah. I mean, that's just great to see. I mean, I mean, I don't, I've not, none of our, we don't, I've not seen any of the older training materials or
Yeah.
information in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not seeing it actually online, but look, you will see a plethora of it. And am I right to say that some of that actually will still be relevant to you, and that's been part of
Oh yeah.
your
Well,
leadership learning in it?
on my resume that
Yeah,
gets used almost every day when as a security consultant now, and as my journey went
yeah,
through, and I moved out of corporate security into technology, and I brought the training up. I mean, I'm a self-confessed
yeah,
geeky kind of like learned to build my own PC stuff, but then I became a tech support and training manager. So training manager, oh look, training course, let's convert all the processes that I learned through IPSA
mm,
and add technology to it, and that makes me a more proficient trainer
mm,
in a different direction. And then I moved into different roles where I always, even when it was technology based, I always referenced back to how would people on the street use it? How would my frontline operators use it? How operationally relevant is it? And it always drew me back. It always drew me back to that
mm,
process. And as I've gone through my career, and even in this day, when my corporate resume goes out, this certification is on it. It is important. It is relevant.
excellent,
It is.
absolutely,
It's it is on there, and it because it shows as well that there's it's the same thing. If you do a degree and it's you do a degree when you're 18, 19, 20,
absolutely.
you still reference it now because it is knowledge and it's foundational or fundamental to what you do. And yeah, it's been so, and that's why when we met and I discovered vicarious, oh my god, you do that, and this is amazing, and it was great to see the resurgence of IPSA as well under your tutelage, and so going forward, I've seen you globe trotting at the various different making agreements in the Middle East and such. So how is IPSA growing globally? What's happening there? Because I've seen some stuff that you've been doing, but please share some more.
Um, Bill, I when I joined, it was almost like, you know, where do I go? Where do I start? Who do I start with, etc., and so on. And we quickly transitioned my my you know my business growth plan strategy changed probably within 12 months, 18 months of me being in the CEO role to all organic. So everything I do or everything IPSA does that we share, our corporate members share, it gets noticed. So a lot of the security associations or organizations from across the globe contact and reach out to us. And if we feel there is there's synergies, there's similarity in what we're trying to do, then we build these partnerships. But a lot of it has been organic, and it's because what you'll find is what I've found when when I've been to America or Europe uh, um, or Middle East is that the frontline security officers seem to have the same issues. You know, long working hours, pay is crap, treated like crap, and etc. Not really valued, and so on. So I was like, this is it. This is the next piece. We've gone from really first we had to, like you said, we had to get re-established in the UK and etc. And that was the first part of my strategy, was to go out, be amongst the communities, and it was around post-COVID time that I felt like I had to go out then and speak to our front. So I went amongst the partners, our corporate partners. I went to speak to the frontline security officers. I thanked them. I listened to their stories. I heard about how they were impacted with COVID and they still went out there. I listened to teams and people that lost um, security professionals during the pandemic, etc.
Wow.
And that all of that then was getting, I didn't do it for anything else other than I wanted to do it. So that then I started to share that. I felt so compelled that I wanted everybody in my unit and everybody around us at IPSA to know that this is what's going on. So we're at Singapore this year, so we'll be exhibiting at the security event in Singapore. I am back to the Middle East. There was an opportunity to there are opportunities to go out um, to Africa, um,
Wow.
India, Mexico. So these are like I've got to sort of forward plan almost 12 to 18 months ahead so I can plan these in so we can get out our even if it's the post nominals or it's the certification. It means just the littlest of things mean to so much to our officers, and we need to make sure that our benefits package is now reflective globally, because that's the next stage. Because we know with all the benefits the frontline officers get, whether it's counselling, free legal care, whether it's free retail officers, free training, free access to various types of offers that would help them in the current climate, not just current climate, but going forward. So that's so the global piece is very, very real. Our biggest number of members outside of the UK is like South America, Europe, and actually South Asia. So we've got to do right, which is go out there, be amongst them, and build partnerships with various associations around the. We need to sort of bring that all together and join that up. But all of it in the last 12 to 18 months has been organic, where companies have come to us, and then through our partnerships we're getting the right people on board in our exec board, and then they have connections, or they are working globally, G4S,
Excellent. Yeah.
ISS. So all that sort of is a natural organic growth and progression for us. And what is the hot topic in South Asia, what's the hot topic in Europe, and etc. There will be similarities, but if it means that we can go out and reach our frontline professionals there, all security professionals reach out to us. I say frontline, because it's the core value is set up for the frontline, and we will never lose that. But actually, we our individual membership is made up of team leaders, directors, business owners, CEOs, and etc. So I don't want to not do it a disservice by actually saying it's inclusive to all. And we've done a lot of work around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We've not taught the talk. We've gone out and we've actually done it. And our board is reflective of that. Over 50% are women. Over 30% are from the neurodiverse community, from the LGBT community, and that was not intentional. We've just gone out and and when individuals approach us to be exec board members and so on, they are absolutely the right people for the role. So we don't just go out and think, oh, we'll tick this. None of it's that, and that's enabled us and equipped us by having the right people in. But and our corporate partners are absolutely incredible and buy into what we are about, and we add value. And when I first joined, Bill, we had members just paying us and so on. And I thought, no, the first thing I did in the first 12 months was go out and meet every single corporate member. It just happened to be post-COVID at the
Yeah.
time. And then that's when I really heard of the challenges, the sacrifices that they made. And I just was in awe. I took it all away and I put it on a platform. I made sure that their stories were heard and et cetera and so on. And IPSA does that really, really well. And they engage with key stakeholders. And we're proud of our partnership with the regulator, with all the various associations, Michelle Russell, Heather Bailey at the Security Industry Authority. We are part of the key stakeholder forum, really proud members of that. And that's where we can bring our membership questions, challenges, what's next, and etc around the table. We're like a that conduit that makes sure that the industry does get heard, and not just we're there for the smaller businesses and medium businesses, Bill. So what you've seen is a lot of our partnerships are they're so diverse. They're small businesses, medium businesses, big businesses, training providers, tech companies, and etc. and so on.
It's so
It goes
true.
on, Bill.
It's interesting you say that because you're talking about the conduit, and there's lots of areas like I'm lucky where I'm from I'm living in British Columbia in Canada where there is security licensing and legislation in place. I mean, nothing's perfect, but they do have systems that run right through from security officers right through to consultants, and you all have to be licensed, and business have to be
Ah,
licensed. It's actually, but
interesting.
you move to the next province and they don't have anything, and so it's not so. And we have the same thing that could be echoed around the world, that some countries, some regions have legislation and licensing and support, and some don't, which means that the standards are all over the place. And
Mm.
it's interesting as well, going back to the point of like inclusivity and the value. And one of the things you said at the beginning was, the value that, diversity brings to the front line. And it was really interesting that one of the things that I'm really proud of is when I was the chapter chair of our local chapter here for ASIS,
Mm.
I recommended and brought in the Security Officer of the Year award,
Oh,
and it was grassroots. But the first year, we almost couldn't get anybody to put anything forward. They didn't see the value in it, and but the person who they put forward had saved a life,
yeah.
and then we have annually at Christmas time we have those awards, and I was at the chapter Christmas event just passed a few months ago, obviously the beginning end of 2024, and the same thing, the stories, oh my god, and the winners,
Mm.
I mean, they should get medals, let alone a
Yeah.
little certificate for what they've done on the front line, saving lives, helping people. And that's just a tiny snapshot of probably what goes on every day in every space everywhere. And again, as you say, under resourced, underpaid, underappreciated, and that needs to change. Really does. I mean, it's and what you're doing is amazing. And it said so. Again, I think we were destined to meet.
So
So
glad we did, Bill. I'm so glad you were so charmed by my accent that you stopped a complete stranger. And I get that a lot, actually. So,
but it's that and the passion, I think I'm a great passion and energy person as well, and
yeah.
it's not just like, you could hear somebody else like this person I need to speak to, and I'm so glad I did, because again, it's reintroduced me. It's reminded me of my foundation. It was
Oh,
so fun bringing all this stuff out of my office. It wasn't hard to find because
yeah.
I mean, you have it around there. Um, but that's one of the things, and it's bringing awareness to it, and it's beautiful that as we talk about mentor and mentoring, that trying to then give back and then passing on information. If somebody around the world listening to this, through the various different links and whatever goes, oh, that's something I need to be involved in. And it betters them as a person or them as an organization and you as a group. And then that symbiotic helping each other situation is wonderful. And, it's funny because the membership cards that I brought up, I knew I had them,
Yeah.
but I hadn't seen them forever. And they were literally tucked away with birth certificates. That's,
What?
that's where they, like, part
Oh,
of the
they
document.
were.
And so I'm going like, oh my god! I found them yesterday. I was like, oh my word! It's very very cool, and it's great to see that an organization that has the tenure that IPSA has. It'll go through you know
Yeah.
peaks and troughs in evolution, but I think the leadership is key, and I think you've been doing a wonderful job. And it's great to see as well that how the industry as a whole is getting better. Are we there yet?
No.
No, right? Where we need to be. But the focus is there. I think as well, there's lots of conversations about how important private security staff are,
Mm.
whether they're contracted or working as an employee for an organization, how much value they bring. And, I just love the fact of, even more hearing what you're doing, I think many kind of organizational partners potentially maybe giving you a shout, because I think that there should be lots of organizations globally that are kind of leading the industry, on the front line, need to be involved with IPSA.
Yeah, it's so great to actually speak to a long serving member of IPSA, and then to get that feedback about, look, Satir, this is what I trained on when you were still in nursery or primary school or somewhere.
Without the platinum high, without the grayness. Yeah, I was. But realistically, if you look at this, I mean, I don't mind sharing my age. I mean, when I first did this,
Mm,
what we're looking at, I'm in my early 20s. you
brilliant,
know so
excellent.
I decided to make the investment, and I think that's very, very key.
Yeah,
Some people have no idea what they're doing, or what they want to do.
yeah,
The industry is a great industry. It has lots of different um, kind of layers to it, lots of different processes and opportunities. And I've presented many, many times, and when people say to me, "Well, where did you start off?" And I said, "I started off as a security officer
officer,
after
yeah,
being in the military." And they go, "But you're a consultant now." I said, "Yes, there's pathways and routes, and
perfect.
a lot of that is based on foundational education
Yeah,
and networking and getting out there and actually mentors and mentees. When I did my 30 days of the kindness games, one of them was somebody who passed away, who was a mentor of mine, a strong mentor of mine, but again, somebody whose thoughts and words and direction stay with me to this day. And it's amazing to see organizations that are championing that, as you say, on a non-for-profit level as well, and
yeah.
really just trying to get things done.
Bill, I mean, the similarities on our journey, because I started on the front line 30 years ago, and I wish that I had access or was aware of IPSA at the same age you were, because it's factual that and you're living proof of it, that my career would have been 15, 20 years ahead if I had joined IPSA at that time. It was my own curiosity. It was my own what's next, in terms of that took me on this journey, that started this journey on IPSA. It was around the pandemic time, and becoming a member of the Security Institute that has brought me to where I am. But I know for a fact, and that's why I want people you know, from middle school upwards, they should be learning about the private security industry. Me and you have intentionally come into the industry. My career, I wanted to always do something around the protective service,
100%.
yeah, police, or whether it was, and then I came and a role came up, and this came, and I thought actually this gave me better benefits. Being in the security industry had better benefits for me joining, and I made a conscious decision to be part of it. Whereas, most of the people in our sector, it's a second or third career or something that they fell into, and etc. And so nothing, and that's something we're trying to change. That actually come and be part of the private security sector, because you can have an incredible, illustrious, and very fulfilling career as I have. But not enough of us go out there and shout and scream. But look, all these things are now changing, because
Yeah.
we've got the platforms, we've got the events. They all talk about career progression. We've got the Security Skills Board that's changing that. And then all the major events now, they all have a platform for frontline officers. They all have a platform for diversity, equity, inclusion, people talking from various different backgrounds about their stories and etc. And we're engaging people from within and externally, because we protect the people that we protect are all they're all from diverse communities. It's so important that our our security professionals reflect the people that we protect. Not just at the front line, because at the front line level we have some great diversity, people from various different backgrounds. But where I want to see more of it is in middle management, leadership, and above. And there are various ways or signpost platforms that we at IPSA have, that we could signpost the frontline security officer. Even pre that, go back before that. Anybody that wants to come in, we can help them on their journey to have a really good career in this sector, because I've loved it, Bill. I love my job. Every day everybody's like, how do you get about, and how do you do what you do? And I do it because every day I'm seeing the love of the people, the care of the people, messages that I get saying thank you, Satia, for this. So it's not, I don't see it as a job. I go there and it's a community that I'm part of and proud of. And that's the same for you, I believe, Bill.
Yeah, and I'll leave you with one little story that's really, really interesting. We have
Yeah.
a couple of people who are Canadian who have been ASIS international presidents, a leader of the whole thing. And we had
Mm.
one speak to us at our individual chapter, and the interesting story was, and he was serving as president at the time, so it was very, we got him at the perfect time, and he said, I started off, my first ever job was guarding a hole in the ground so people wouldn't fall in it, like safety or steal materials or whatever. He says, my first job in security was guarding a hole in the ground. And then he's like, and again, because it's an entry point, and as you said, I've had people work for me as a security officer who were also studying computer science. Well, look at our industry now on the technology side, where that can lead you,
Mm.
right? Meeting the right people and being introduced to an industry that is so diverse and so growing. Like stats right now are that the industry globally is short of 3.5 million cybersecurity professionals.
Mm.
So imagine if you got some geeky person working on the front line security, and they are aware of that. Oh, there's a hole in the industry that I already like doing security. Well, maybe then, well, that might take their study path to a completely different kind of career level, and those jobs get paid really, really well. So it's
100%.
amazing that I've seen many, many people in that same thing. But to your point, lots of people stumble into this industry, and then they stay. Why do they stay? Because it's bloody interesting and fascinating and demanding and challenging and evolving. And yeah, I kind of look at that, going back to that first point of trying to dump my knowledge on people.
Mm.
It's like, it's beautiful to share this, and it reminds me so much. Again, going back to that foundational message, is that you're doing it better now, right? And you're doing it differently, and your engagement is broader, right? People say international to begin with, and there was maybe, I think when I was members, there was maybe a smattering of maybe a few in Europe, but now you're truly global, you're truly international, and it's fantastic to see. And I'm so grateful for you taking the time to record this and do this podcast with me.
Oh, Bill, it's been wonderful. Honestly, I'm just so glad that we've kept in touch, we've followed up, and etc. And I've got to know you. So you're a wonderful professional. You've taken me down memory lane with IPSA. You're a great poster, a advert for IPSA, and talking about your journey and etc. and so on. And I know there's more out there, more professionals like you out there. And look, where else can we say, I went home today and I saved a life?
Yeah,
Your power. I changed somebody's life from administering first aid. I took them off the end of a car park, or I made sure they got help because they were going through a mental health breakdown. I mean, it's endless. There are thousands and thousands of stories, and this happens day in, day out. That is what IPSA is about, is making sure that these people that do this day in, day out have a voice and they get free access to wonderful things that we've already talked about, Bill. So look, honestly, it's been a joy to catch up. Obviously we're not going to leave it here. Let me know when you're in the UK, and make sure you come and touch base with us.
100%. And I'm sure added to your, was it 18 months of backlog calendars, you globetrot, I wouldn't be surprised if some trips into the US and Canada will be forthcoming following this as well, as people reach out to you
Yeah,
even more globally to kind of establish relationships with IPSA. So, Sadia, thank you so much for your time. And on that note, we wrap this episode. And until next time, thank you all.
take
Bye bye.
care.